What's happening? Benson here. I think the title was supposed to be non-tent yapping. I believe the autocorrect just took it upon itself to make it content yapping. So I left it. Whatever. No live chat for various reasons. Finally got loaded at the same place I got unloaded. Trucking, man. The truck stop about half a mile down the road from the delivery / pickup. I must have weighed out about 10 different times. Not that I care. I don't pay for it. And so I scaled when I got there, and then I scaled out after they unloaded me, and then I sat around waiting for about an hour and a half. And dispatch let me know that I was going back to the same place on some strange, foolish broker shenanigans, something about blind bills. I don't even know what that is. Mr. Benton, your friendly neighborhood idiot savant here. I just follow directions. So I won't even begin to figure out what that's all about. And so I was told to get an empty scale ticket after I left the place empty. So I did that, waited 2 hours, only to be told I was going back to the same place. I called them, and I don't care, but I scaled for the second time empty, which I'm assuming was the same weight. I didn't even bother to check. And then went back to get loaded on the blind bill shenanigans, in which I waited around to be faxed, have some bills of lading faxed to the truck stop there. $1 a page. And got loaded and scaled out again for the shipper's purposes. And that's all billed to them. That's 4 scale tickets billed to them. And of course, I guessed as best as I could, but my axle weights weren't correct. So then I scaled out on my company. That's another $15. And then either twice more or 3 times more. I've lost track. So that's $5 each a shot. And on the last try, well, of course it would be the last try, but I finally got this thing legal. So we've now, I can't get any more fuel. I've got 3/4 of a tank. So I went ahead and reset the trip meter. So once we get to wherever we want to get fuel, I can estimate how many gallons to put in to still be legal. And remember, if anybody recalls from this morning, we appeared to have crossed some scale in the highway that weighed us when we could have perhaps been slightly overweight, nothing too crazy, but I was under the gross by the time I made it to the receiver. And that was caused, the potential overweight was because I went to the wrong city for the first time ever in truck driving, and then I'd been keeping the fuel tanks near half, and then I went ahead and fueled up. So when I rolled out this morning, early, actually, yeah, just past midnight, I drove around the scales, and when I exited the interstate, there were scales built into the highway, and the electronic equipment appeared to take the rig's picture and would have recorded the truck number and the license plate and all of that. So long story short, I'm making sure not to go back towards any of that foolishness where I might get pulled in to a weigh station where they're like, "Hey, we got a record of you being slightly overweight, buddy." I don't have a lot of experience in such matters. I'm not sure anybody even gives a fuck nowadays, but whatever. I don't know how much I have to yap about, so let's put up the non-tent banner. Fair warning to everybody. There we go. I need to drive. Looks like 338 more miles, so 5 hours. So of course I'll stop, but that puts us driving until 4:45. So that's really relatively late by Mr. Benton standards. Hell, I think I was asleep the last two nights by 4:45. And what is it about going to sleep so early? Y'all ever met anybody under the age of 100 that goes to bed this early? In the summer, I have to force myself to stay up late because it just doesn't. When the sun's going down at 8 p.m., it doesn't make sense to go to sleep at like 4 if I'm in Los Angeles or San Francisco or whatever, or 5 or 5:30 or 6. But I believe I'm driving away from the snow, so we got that going from us. It's not snowing yet, but it's supposed to. It's been warm enough though. Whatever they've had out here, it's all melted. Unlike Fargo, where most of it was gone, but there was still a bit here and there. Yeah, very windy, very, very windy. And I don't know, man. I'm still curious about this company. They used to push me a lot harder. And I guess now that they see that I run pretty hard, except I ain't really I'm trying to shut down early every day, but then I wake up very early, sometimes maniacally early. Some of these shifts lately, I've started at like 10:30 p.m. So I don't know if they're paying attention. I'm always, like I said, when I look at my last 7 days driven, it's always over 3,000. It's usually almost always over 3,300, maybe 3,400, which doesn't even count whatever foolishness I get up to on the personal conveyance. So that could be another 100, 200 miles. So if that ain't good enough, they can fire me, which I don't think is going to happen. Still thinking about maybe, I don't know, man. No plans, right? No promises, no commitment. But like I was telling the guy at the facility, seemed to be a local, seemed to be about my age. This is farming country, small areas. This was an actual town. It's like 15,000 people. They had a Walmart. I couldn't even be bothered to go over to Walmart while I was waiting for my load. It's bad when I'm not even into that. And telling him that I live in the truck and don't have a life and all of this. And sometimes people are kind of surprised to hear that. And like, hey man, I'm saving, I'm banking like $1,000 a week. I ain't rich, but and then I tell him, once I get to a certain amount of money, I start thinking, well, what's the point of even working for at least for a while? But At this point, what the hell else am I going to do? I mean, obviously there's stuff I can do, but on 20 G's stack them 20 racks. What if I stack another 20 more? Shit, it might be time to look at buying a truck, which I definitely don't want a truck for long haul. This would be for oil field and or agriculture type stuff. Get me, I like them old internationals, like a late 90s into like 2007 pre-emissions. And although some of them do have like some rudimentary emissions on them, I think pre-emissions just means it's not, I don't think it was totally required, but I think a lot of the manufacturers had already switched over is probably what it was. So I think that means I could remove it, but I don't even know how it works, but oil field and agriculture, it's not required anyway. So I could find me a pretty clean 10-speed uh, international tractor with a pretty decent sleeper cab. I mean, again, it's one thing to live in a truck, but I'm fairly spoiled by mostly been in decent sleepers. Because man, some of those 1,000,000-mile trucks, like a '99 with 1.5 million miles on it, they're still good trucks, but them sleepers are usually just, when a homeless person is thinking twice about crawling up in there, you know what I mean? It's something's gone wrong. So then it's like, well, I don't think I'd want to pay to have that bitch ripped off of there and replaced. I'd probably only do 72-inch sleeper that looked like it was in decent shape. And you got engine options, some Caterpillars available. I'm not one of those guys who's, some people, that's all they'll have, that's what they swear by. I've never driven one of those Cummins N14s. I keep hearing real bad things about the ISX. Apparently that's to be avoided. But they say, I think it's mostly emissions issues. Like, well, if I have all that removed, but then you also get into whoever deletes the emissions has to, they got to reflash the ECU and all that. And then you're kind of dependent on what kind of software they have. You could, I'm not trying to get 5 miles a gallon. Neither. And then you got the Detroit Diesel 60 series. That's probably the way to go because I think that's just no emissions at all. And because some of the Caterpillars is that C15 ACERT with I think that's the only emissions engine they've ever made. And then they said, fuck it. And they quit making big rig engines. I'm pretty sure that was the last big rig engine they ever came out with, at least for over here. Which I kind of respect that. They're like, man, we tried. It's a bunch of bullshit trying to do that EGR, exhaust gas recirculation. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but trying to run sooty fucking diesel emissions back through the intake, that just sounds fucking stupid, man. I mean, it really does. And I'm not saying they haven't figured it out to some extent, but at least initially, I mean, it's fucking foolish. And then let the American truck driver be the guinea pig. Hell, just that emissions alone has put a lot of owner operators out of business. downtime and repair costs. It seems to mostly work on the newer trucks, though. I will say that in my experience, I've had zero. I've had a check engine light a couple of times, but I haven't really had any. And that's usually just bad depth, and it burns out eventually. That's why we always fill the def at every time we get fuel, we fill her up with def if at all possible. I'm also looking at car rental prices and thinking about maybe going out to LA, but I mean, if you just consider it a hotel room and transportation all in one, it's actually not that unreasonable. I think somewhere in the general vicinity of 1,500 a month, thereabouts, and then probably 300 in fuel from Chicago to LA. Maybe not even that much. 200, 250. Call it 250. I like to take my time on road trips. Hell, if I'd take 6 days to drive on both ends, that's damn near half a month. Let's call it a third of a month. I don't know. If I fly, then I got to figure out something to do with my possessions. Boy, shout out to Fight Club. The things you own end up owning you indeed. I like my stuff, man. I've got enough money to just fly out and buy new shit, or throw all of this stuff in storage, which might be the same as throwing it in the dumpster, but paying to store it for some period of time. Historically, I've only ever really been willing to store things as long as there needed to be something in there that would be pawnable, if necessary, to pay the fucking fees in a pinch. And I don't know that I don't believe I own anything at this point that's worth any money. And then, would I go back and work for the same trucking company or not? Probably. And then how long would they, as another option, how long would they let me not work but keep the truck? Because when they're trying to talk me out of quitting, they make it sound like I can pretty much take off as long as I want. But I mean, there's going to be a limit to that. If I try to get 2 months off, he's going to probably be like, well, that's fine, but we're going to have to use your truck, if only for a spare or whatever. Because it ain't my truck. I got a PM coming up, so maybe I'll time it out to where I'll drop it off at the shop and they can deal with the PM. Scale closed. All right. Boy, this wind is fucking crazy. I'm glad we're heavy. If I hadn't just spent 30 minutes finding the one hole to be legal in on the axles, I'd stop and slide the axles all the way to the rear. Damn, this ain't no joke. I'm gonna slow down a little bit. Out of an abundance of caution. Apologies for the wind noise. There goes some, look like South Dakota's version of tumbleweed. Branch off a tree, maybe. What's that? A watermelon stand? It appears to be deserted, though. Wouldn't mind stopping in for some melons. Larson's melons. How many axles this fella got? Like 8 axles on the trailer, look like. Damn. 2 trailers, actually. Double trailers. Getting a healthy 5.0 miles per gallon. 79,300 pounds, I think, somewhere in the vicinity. Good thing I like to drive, man. What's funny, it's just not a whole lot. It doesn't look like it's a whole lot cheaper to fly from Chicago to LA and then rent a car there for a month and then return it and then fly all the way back to Chicago. Of course, you'd save the gas and the time driving across the country, but I don't mind flying, but I'm not a fan. I've flown quite a bit actually, but I'm not a fan. Just it would be easier. Hell, even if I rented it for an extra week and cut my travel time in half, it still kind of makes sense on some level to just go ahead and drive all the way. I almost bought a scratcher, but then I thought, if I haven't figured out by now that I'm not gonna, it's not like I'm gonna win 100 G's to be able to buy a truck and have that little cushion of money to. Of course, that'd be like 65,000 after taxes. With what I've already got, that'd be enough to buy a truck and then do whatever I needed to do and think about working in the oil field enough to, work for a company long enough to get a little bit of experience and training and pay somebody, find a place to store my truck and then, whatever I need done to it, pay somebody to do that. Cash is still king. Especially if you bring them some older truck they don't mind working on. And I don't give a damn about a Peterbilt. Some of them look cool, but my number one concern, other than having the right, engine and axles and differentials and all that, and transmission, is the sleeper cab. Anyway, that's where I'm going to be all the time. You got a lot of old nice Kenworths that I like the sleepers on them, but A lot of them are 18 speed, 13 speed, and hell, them are $80,000 trucks. You know, I'm talking about 35 max, like absolute max, 35K. And for that money, I'm expecting it to have, you know, mostly not need any work. You know, no tires and, you know, nothing really to replace out the gate. Where the hell am I? Good thing I looked at the GPS. Looks like we're making a right turn here in a 1.7 miles. Just past the country pumper. I guess that's a country store. The country pumper. Hey, yeah, she is. There's a junkyard. Oh, I see a bunch of Ford F-150s. Nothing but Fords. That's probably somebody's hoarded out property. Damn, that's one of them, like what I see in Michigan. Those double trailers. It wasn't nothing but axles the whole way across. I don't know anything about some of this stuff. I guess that's so they don't destroy the roads in the wintertime, maybe. I don't really know. Damn. Oh, man. Goodness. Ain't even noon. I'm yawning already. Would take my herbs, my digestion herbs. We got some DGL, some licorice, chewable. Got that at the natural grocers. I guess we got the liquid slippery elm bark. Throw some of that down. I got the marshmallow root. Oh yeah. Heal my colon, damn it. Definitely finding a little more content these days that seems to be, I don't know about regular or normal, but actual people just talking about life and such. I wonder how much of that is escapism and does it even matter? And it's probably partially the truck driving, but I definitely got into some fantastical spaces today, just sort of just kind of lost adrift in a sea of my own reveries and bebopping around. I don't know. Kind of pretty country out here, I guess. I guess there's nothing wrong with fantasizing as long as the being understands that the being is fantasizing. And I don't think it would be escapism for yours truly, but definitely, I'm definitely seeing some signs in the normies, and hell, the normies don't even think that they're normies at this point. Not that they ever, they're not even really supposed to be thinking that way, right? I know when I was normie or close enough to normie, I guess I wouldn't have been aware of it, right? What do we got now? Self-aware normies. So half the time, if I hear somebody talk about normies, I'm like, "You're a normie, motherfucker. What are you talking about? Normies? That's you, partner." Hell, they might be thinking that about me, though. I don't know. I did see some channels are having they're not dealing so well with the Kurt Cobain. If y'all have heard, these forensic experts have come out and said it's basically fucking possible that he killed himself. And I'm like, hell, I said us conspiracy theorists have pretty much known that all along. And the rest, I basically said the rest of you cowards, you know, y'all weren't trying to hear all that. That ain't cool. The one guy's even like, well, I don't normally talk about conspiracies on my channel, but and he's a pretty big YouTuber, that Atozy, Atozy. He covers some locale type of stuff, so I watch some of the content. Yeah, I don't normally talk about this sort of conspiracies, and like he's all above it all and shit. But I guess now that the system that murdered Kurt Cobain is acknowledging it, I guess then it's okay for me to talk about it. And he doesn't say it that way, but fucking cowards, man. Oh, now I need some super normie coward to tell me about Kurt Cobain. Fuck off. And I shouldn't say that. I don't mean that. My increasingly sensitive internal space is communicating not to. That I probably don't need to go to quite to those. The negativity is okay, but that guy was a little too strong, right? That was some strong negativity. So, um, you know, over the top, inappropriate, inappropriately strong negativity. Methinks thou doth protest too much style. So let me breathe a little bit. And with my breath work, my just natural breathing and observation of such, uh, I'm noticing a lot. Like, I guess I used to have a lot of panic attacks and just didn't even know I was having panic attacks, which that's kind of I don't know that humbling is the right term, but, I tend to view myself in certain ways. I call it like a physiological panic attack because I don't know that I ever, other than the autistic freakouts, but most of this is usually when I wake up in the morning and then, of course, which is nighttime a lot of the time, but it kind of depends on whatever pops in my mind. And then, because sometimes I'm not really thinking of much of anything and I can just notice that my body's, physiologically sort of going into, maybe a little bit of a slightly increased heart rate, maybe some cortisol kicking in. And then I know, especially if I want to try to go back to sleep, I need to keep my breathing relatively shallow. And, a lot of sleeping, and this is well known, but, a lot of that's associated with the out breath being considerably longer than the in breath. And, once you get into panic attack territory, you got a longer, if you're breathing deeply and properly, otherwise I guess it's a rapid in or a rapid out. But, I managed to mostly avoid the deep breathing by taking in the same amount of oxygen, but making sure not to let the out breath get too rapid or short. And then every few breaths maybe have to go a little deeper, but that sort of thing. I'm always working on something, and a lot of times multiple somethings. There's really no such thing as an unproductive Benton, but yeah, I really feel like I could use just some wandering around on foot every day. And LA and or San Francisco is a good place for that for me to mostly be left alone. But if I choose to interact with people, I do make a mistake of sort of befriending people at times. And then if I don't think about, well, you're going to be running into these same people like every single day at the same time, and you might not really want to run into the same people every day. And then, and I think some of this is just my own gullibility and naivete and, um, the Jehovah's Witness upbringing, but especially in LA, but also other places like, it's mostly people who are hoping to have sex with me. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's a sizable, some people are just friendly and affable, but, more and more I'm realizing just how sex focused people are, even as news articles and all this claims that Americans are having less sex than ever before. But I don't know, man. Maybe like more generally, but I'm retired. Hopefully, time will tell. So I'm seeing a lot of these signs in society, and like I said, on some level, everything's a cope. And I don't have I got the answers for me on behalf of me in service of me and what I am based on true knowledge of self and based on various practices for many, 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 many years, preparing the way, tilling the soil, which, seems to be one of the major themes of the Bible, especially the Gospels. Planting the seed and all, preparing the way and all of that type of thing. Make the tree good or make the tree rotten, and on and on and on. Those are all internal. See, that's all of that is internal processes versus the human, whether part of the dead flesh or the psychology of Moloch's machine or both. The near obsession of the individual to externalize and to seek to achieve things externally, where it's the only power and meaning accessible are within the individual. The kingdom of air quotes so-called God is within you style, or within me, or however that breaks down. So I was looking at what kind of car I might want to rent. And I've been going on Expedia. They don't really let me choose the car exactly. It's like, Chevrolet Trax or similar. Then I Googled what does that normally mean, and they listed like 5 different cars, but one of them was the Jeep Renegade, or the Jeep, I forget, not the Liberty, but I've got a couple small compact SUVs. And I don't know, what do I do? Just can't, if I get, that's really the only one that I wouldn't want to fuck with out of what was listed. One of them was what, the Hyundai. I've already forgot which one, or a Kia maybe. I forget. There's like I'm not that familiar with these cars, but anyway, some kind of little SUV crossover thing. And it looked fairly roomy for what it was. Pretty good fuel economy. So I don't know. We'll see. I guess now it's all about extraction, right? Or extricating, the being extricating itself from the present situation without abandonment on the record. Stay in good standing as much as possible. The Congo Club, spelled with a K on both accounts. Starlight Drive-In Theater. Doesn't look to be in use, although I guess it could be. What's this? A town? Yep. It's like a rodeo stadium. Mitchell. Are we still in Sodak? I don't know. Oh man. Corn Palace straight ahead. All right. Okay, that's what I thought. My GPS doesn't know the speed limit. It's 35. GPS thought it was 55. I wonder why this truck was going so slow in front of me. He was probably familiar with the area, or maybe he can read the speed limit signs. Either way, not seeing very many over the road dry van drivers. I don't think I've seen another. I think I'm the only one so far. Prehistoric Indian village, whatever that is. Aha, make a turn. It's a local coffee place. That's interesting. I'm drinking far less coffee these days. I guess that's a good thing. I had none yesterday and did not even get a headache. And didn't get too cranky. A little bit. Part of that is by the time I realized I hadn't had any coffee, it's like 10:30, and it's like, well, shit, probably a little too late to start now. Yeah, we're gonna have to pass this guy now. I'm still rolling, and he stopped and had to make a full stop for the light. He'll probably pass us back. A lot of truckers out here making that money, hauling whatever they're hauling for agriculture. Let's pull on out there, Bubba. There's one of them Peterbilts, damn near $100,000 truck, I reckon. No thanks. Yeah, it's a whole nother world out here in middle America. So, I understand some of the where they're coming from. Not every, people are having different experiences in this country. That's for sure. It's not all the same. Some of it is, but this road is fucked. Goodness. Hey, we're almost to the interstate. Yay. Dakota Land Federal Credit Union. Now we're coming through town, and all the locals are pulling out in front of us for some reason, bizarrely. I'm not sure why that is. Well, not the Popo. Popo did not pull out in front of us. Oh, that's a state trooper. Okay. A park ranger. Huh. Well, either way, we ain't on his radar. There's a state trooper. That's a different one. Sheriff, school resource officer. Huh. It's quite the convergence of law enforcement all at once. Must be lunchtime. That's right. It's lunchtime. They're all in town getting lunch. It's the folks. Remember, they're more or less, everybody's going to the same places more or less around the same time. The gigantic apartment complex. Goodness gracious. Might be able to get you an apartment in there under $1,000, maybe. I don't know. We are fairly close to the interstate here. Maybe though. 975, perhaps. Damn, that's like a ton of old RVs. I wonder if those are for sale. It's interesting. You need you a travel trailer. Shit, fella, I'd have let you. I'd have let this guy pull out, but he's so long. I can see why he waited, but I wouldn't have gave a damn. Long ass setups. You might be there a minute. And Trail King Industries, I guess they're manufacturing low boys and all kind of specialty trailers for heavy haul. Yeah, they got some pretty nice stuff out there. Oversized load, them big fuckers. I don't know nothing about that. Oh, boom, boom, boom. 80. We can't go that fast. Dakota Wesleyan University. Huh. All right. Yeah, I've never been to this part of the country. Or if I have, I've probably been to this air general vicinity, but I'm definitely seeing all this for the first time. There's Cabela's and a Walmart and a Menards. Brick and mortar, man, it's not dead. It's not dead in middle America yet. Not yet. Fuck, dude, this wind. F and A, dude. We got advertisements for a technical school, Mitchell Tech. It's got pictures of some of the students, I guess. Big old billboards. Two white boys and an engine, and a female engine. I guess that's good enough. We'll take it. You're good, goddamn. You're goddamn good, God-fearing Americans, right? Which I'm not even making fun of them. I mean, it's a very, very specific thing, but I ain't got nothing against them. No nonsense, most of them. I do appreciate that. Another state trooper, he's in a pickup truck. Wah, wah, wah. Some of these billboards, man, these attempts at comedy, I'm wondering if AI is writing these jokes. That one said something about it was fishing themed, and it said it was some lady selling real estate, and it said catch you a keeper, but key it was spelled KEY, so instead of KEEPER, they had a KEY dash PER, and then some bozo fishing, some bozo white guy fishing, and then the lady real estate agent will sell you a house, catch you a keeper. Is that the sort of thing humans have come up with? I don't know, man. There goes another Peterbilt. Big old pipes. Yeah. Hell, I guess I would end the stream. I don't know what the fuck I would do at this point. They charged me, $45. They gave me a free month when I tried to quit, when I tried to cancel StreamYard. They gave me a free month, which is a good idea because, not that I forgot to cancel it. It was more just general apathy. So, like, fuck, might as well use it. I think I want some more watermelon, maybe. I ain't trying to stop, though. That's what I should have done. If I'd been on my game, I would have chopped up some watermelon. Yeah. Bye.